Welcome to the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. I am your host, Rob Gauthier, the ET Whisperer. The Enlightenment Evolution Hour is a part of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. Any ideas or opinions expressed by myself, the guest, or a caller may not necessarily reflect the same opinions of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. Enlightenment defined. It's the state of giving and receiving greater knowledge and understanding about a certain subject or situation. Evolution defined. The gradual development of something, especially from a simple to a more complex form. So what then is Enlightenment Evolution? The state of giving and receiving greater knowledge as we develop from a simple to a more complex human being, living on Earth for our soul's experience. Welcome now and join us as we explore our Enlightenment Evolution Hour together. Hey everybody, welcome to the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. I am your host, Rob Gauthier. Hello. Sorry it took me a second to unmute my microphone. My fingers were over trying to correct a spelling error from one of the comments because I enjoy chatting with you guys in the chat too as the show goes on. Welcome everybody. Today we have an amazing guest. We've got Haleigh Overseth, who is not just a sci-fi fantasy author producer, but we're going to talk about her in just a few minutes, guys, and bring her in as our guest today. Hello everybody. What a great week it's been for everyone. It's been a little crazy for us lately, but that is as it is. Welcome all the people from Matrix Minds. For those of you who don't know, this is a simulcast where we live stream to 3 locations at once. We have the ET Whisper YouTube channel, which is where a lot of you come in and connect. And we have the Matrix Minds from our dear friend Matthew Turner, who is amazing guy. We have a bunch of great people coming in from both those areas, and we have a few people who pop in from the Enlightenment Evolution Hour Facebook page. So welcome everybody. Welcome. I did not check with Matthew today. Today has been busy where I literally didn't even get a chance to do anything until literally like an hour and a half before the show started. So I'm way behind. I'm not sure if Matt has a show tonight on the Matrix Minds or not. I'm going to check in with him. If you're listening, Matt, let us know. But when I do find that out, I'll definitely let you guys know. We are going to do a few announcements real quick. The first announcements that we have, the ET Whisper channeling course is now coming to its end. It's still going to be available. There just won't be a live interactive, well, not live, but the interactive Q&A parts that we did every week after we drop a new recording. Then we would have a Q&A from everybody about those techniques and recordings. But all of the recordings of that technique and all the answers that Ardif gave to the people who did ask questions are all part of forever. That course is still available. etwhisper.com. You can go to classes and look through all the courses. There's the healing sexuality course as well as the channeling course. Hello all. And Kalina is in the chat. As you guys see, she is helping us with moderation. Oh, I see. She's saying hello to Canadian Awareness. How are you, brother? Anthony from Canadian Awareness is with us, everybody. Hello, all of you guys. We'll talk to you guys in just a minute. I want to bring in our guest because all the things I could tell you are great, but I want to tell you a little bit about our guest and then have our guest tell you about her because that's how we do it here. And we've got... I'm so sorry, guys. My head's a little, like I said, it's overpopulated right now because of all the running around I've been doing today. And how late I got home today. I forgot to mention the shows, the mothership for the Enlightenment Evolution Network and Out There Talk with Valiant himself. They're both going to be available. Valiant starts on the first of the month coming up, and that's Tuesdays and Wednesdays at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. and the mothership, I believe, is next Thursday. And either way, those get shared on the Facebook Enlightenment Evolution Network page. And that's that, guys. So go check out both of those shows if you want to. Check out our Enlightenment Evolution Network Facebook page. And soon we will have the website up for the entire network, all the shows that are on there, including Kalina's once she gets her set up. And it's going to be amazing. Now, our guest tonight is amazing. Haleigh Overseth is a writer and a producer of Adventures of Abernathy Franklin, a fictional science fiction, fantasy podcast, and ebook series exploring the multiverse, which I have heard a few episodes now. Everyone I've heard is quite amazing, creative, very wonderful, and we'll definitely be talking about those tonight. Haleigh has aspired to be a writer from the time she was able to hold a pen and scribble an alphabet. In her current endeavor, she hopes to raise human consciousness by introducing extra-dimensional concepts of reality in a way that's entertaining and playful, which she succeeds very much on her podcast with, and in her writing slash podcast slash ebook that she does with the Adventures of Abernathy Franklin. Knowing that many minds in the mainstream consciousness might otherwise outright reject these ideas, behaviors, or ideas such as benevolent alien reptilians. I went reptilian. I put reptilians in there. I'm so sorry, guys. Every time I speak about the book I did with Jefferson Biscardi, it's benevolent human reptilian hybrids. So it's just my brain ties those words together permanently. My bad, guys. So I lost my spot. Gee, I am in rare form tonight, guys. I'm so sorry, but my brain is a little crazy tonight, more crazy than normal. In the mainstream, people might reject ideas as benevolent alien species or power to create your own reality. Haleigh attempts to represent those ideas in a way that's enjoyable and more palatable for her audience, which she highly excels at. But instead of telling all of you guys about who Haleigh is, I'm going to have Haleigh tell you about herself. Hello, Haleigh. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for coming tonight.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I am thrilled to be here. I'm going to try really hard not to trip over my words and all my excitement.
Well, I'm doing it for you, so no worries.
Well, no, and we were talking reptilians just before we started, so I put that in your head a little bit too. So that's a little bit my fault. I will mea culpa. I'll take some of the heat on that one.
All right, well, that's fair dues, because definitely that's something we want to talk about tonight too. I want to talk with you about a lot of things, but the first place I always start with everyone is the exact same place. We're going to talk about your story, so we'll have the opportunity to do that. But what I want to know more than what the story is how you developed the personality, the person, the individual that you are, that was open to having this story, the person who was open to writing sci-fi, the person who was open to writing, the person who was open to listening to people, places, things about consciousness, learning it yourself, integral. That person who was open to have the story. How did that form through your childhood and through your young adulthood? Yeah, that's the question, if it makes sense.
Oh yeah. So I grew up in South Dakota. I graduated in a class of 22 kids, so very small town, very rural. Um, Definitely very conservative, kind of closed-minded, and I still have to sort of deal with that in a lot of ways. Um, for me, I always have been a little bit on the fringes, though. I was never comfortable in the religious setting that I grew up in. I was never comfortable with the ideas of having to fit into everybody's, the standards of what you're supposed to be. As a kid, I was always interested in anything that I wasn't supposed to be interested in. If I wasn't supposed to look at it, if there was an element of being forbidden, I wanted to know more about it. I had to look at it. So anything, I was the kid who wanted to get books at the book fair that had to do with ghosts and anything paranormal and weird. Um, as I grew up, I got more interested in things like the occult. I did have, when I was about 10 years old, my parents got divorced, and it was a pretty ugly situation. for a lot of years. So I think there's some emotional trauma in there that kind of made me, I don't know, I maybe open to having a story, but also maybe closed off a little more excessively than I was before to the things that were expected of me. So made me more dive more into the things that I was interested in. It was kind of a way to cope to some degree. Um,
Yeah, that's a fascinating that you say that. I think you're the first person who's told this part of their story, and I hate to interrupt. I'm
no, go ahead.
observing as I can, that the energy there kind of gave you this maybe not rebellious nature, but kind of, like, hey, these are the things I normally can't do, and because all this crazy stuff is happening around me, I'm going to put my energy into doing these things regardless of who likes it, or the environment around. So that's a very interesting perspective too, and I've never heard someone quite share it that way. That's amazing. Sorry, please continue.
Oh, no, it's absolutely true. I do, I think I was born with a bit of a contrarian nature and just wanting to, do all the things that I was told and I wasn't supposed to do. But yeah, I think that emotional turmoil really did kick me pretty hard into that. And, you know, fine, I'll be the black sheep, I'll be the outsider. I don't have a problem with it. I may as well. So, and to some degree, I am still that. It's, the things that I'm interested in are not necessarily widely accepted by anyone that I know personally. Again, I currently live in South Dakota. Again, I've lived a number of places. Um, but always was, a big fan of movies and music, and I'm definitely someone who consumes pop culture, and I love, like, my favorite movies as a kid were like Ghostbusters and Beetlejuice. So right there you can see I'm into the weird. I've always been into the weird.
The good movies, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's
Um
amazing. And oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I think that's where a lot of some of my creative energy came from. I did a lot of, sort of angsty teen poetry writing when I was in middle school and high school. I had a lot of that going on. But I did always love writing. I always liked, coming up with stories. I'm kind of someone who's always lived in my head to a certain degree, probably more than is, considered to be healthy by the wide world, but that's fine. Creating little stories in my head, and, so I kind of fell out of it. I went to college for communications, but you got to be an adult and get a job and do the things and pay the bills. And so I did fall out of writing for quite a while. Um, but in the last 3 years or so, we were kind of talking before the podcast, in 2020, just before my dad passed away of COVID, I had a friend from high school that I hadn't talked to in probably 8 years or more just randomly messaged me on Facebook because she wanted my address. She wanted to send me, like, a family update card, Christmas card type thing. And just out of the blue, she and asked, "Hey, how you doing? What's your address? And are you still writing?" And it seems silly now, but looking back on it, it's silly. But in that moment, I was like, "Oh yeah, I used to write. I used to like writing. Why don't I write anymore?" Um, and I really do think, because I do believe that there's no such thing as coincidence. I really do think, because I haven't talked to that friend since then. I believe that there was somebody who was trying to remind me that I liked writing because there's something I'm supposed to do with it. I do believe the universe was trying to trigger me to get back into it. Um, so it kind of started from there. I started journaling again, and I started looking at, like, writing contests, and that was actually how I got my first episode of Abernathy Franklin. That's not necessarily how it started. I was actually writing for a writing contest, and the prompt was that you had to write a short story that had a green light. It didn't matter what it was. It didn't matter how you used it. It just had to be a green light. And the short story that I wrote ended up being the first episode of The Adventures of Abernathy Franklin.
That's amazing. So this energy comes out of nowhere, and after a pretty severe negative experience with you losing your father, and of course some people in the chat said they send love and condolences for your loss, and
Thank
everything. And
you.
yeah, and me too. Kalina lost her mother last year, and I lost my father in 2015. So losing a parent sucks. Even if you have a rocky relationship with them, it still sucks. But especially when you're close with them. And from
Yeah.
what I understand, you were really close with your dad too. So
I was. My dad was always my best cheerleader. My dad was that person who always thought that I was awesome even when I was having my worst day, you know? Dad was always that person for me, and so losing dad was definitely hard in that respect that, you kinda have that, "Well, who's gonna love me like that?" You know?
yeah, yeah, it's definitely a brutal experience. But and having that bad feeling, hard to get over, a difficult experience, then this friend from a long time ago just sends you this random message. And this happens a lot. Synchronicities happen a lot in our community. People share and talk about them. But what do you feel the synchronicity was for? Was it for writing this show? Was it for remembering that you used to love to write? Was it for everything, or was it for
You
something that we're
know?
not even going to see yet for
I
a long
don't
time?
know. I am like I said before, I am kind of in the middle of the mystery still and putting the puzzle together to a certain degree. Synchronicities have been following me around kind of since that time. Um, it's so I actually so your work I actually found from Ruben Langdon's show Interviews with Extra Dimensionals, which so I'll be perfectly honest and open. After my dad passed, I had a lot of I don't care about anything in the world anymore. I started using cannabis really very heavily and was just mostly sitting on the couch watching TV. But I did during that time spend a lot of time kind of getting more familiar with channeling work. And I always loved the paranormal. I always loved supernatural, but I wasn't necessarily as heavily into, the ideas of aliens and things like that. But during that time when I was just kind of doing my best to cope with my emotions by, maybe numbing them and distracting myself quite a bit, I got really into, watching your work and Ruben Langdon's show and just kind of getting into these different ideas of consciousness. And I was having, and I still do sometimes. So I do have these kind of strange experiences now and then. And like I said, there's some kind of energies and entities that are trying to get me messages. I would like to be able to receive them more clearly. I know that I still have some, residual human belief structures that I'm sure are in the way. Um, but I would be sort of half asleep, half awake. It might be late at night or early morning. And I would just have these things just pop into my head, like a word or a phrase or a name that I knew wasn't me. Like you just kind of know, like that wasn't me. What was that? And the first one that I remember, and it was not long after my dad passed. Um, the first one that I remember was look at the earth. And I was like, look at what? Look at what do you mean? I don't what does that mean? And the next one that I remember hearing was go and lay with him in the sun. And I'm like, what? I don't know what that means. And I still don't really know what it means. And I don't really know necessarily, again, who's trying to talk to me. But that's kind of where I've gotten. So I haven't incorporated them into the writing yet. I want to, but I do have like these names that pop up to me. And when I'm doing some of my art, I do a lot of like abstract sort of oil pastel art or painting. I will have these faces or these sort of portions of faces or portions of a being that I like I'm mostly just drawing shapes and then suddenly I'm like, "Oh, that's a face." Or those are wings. And this sort of partial image of an entity will sort of just reveal itself while I'm drawing. And sometimes I'll also get a name. And so like the first name that I got, I was actually just sort of doodling stick figures, kind of wobbly, curvy stick figure type person. And I think I still have the sheet of paper. I was scribbling down letters and sounds because I heard a name and the name was Laramie. And I was like, what how is this spelled? What is I don't understand. And I was scribbling trying to figure out the spelling and what that was. And I was like, okay, the stick person is Laramie. Okay, that's cool. And I was telling you earlier, I was doing an oil pastel. I thought I was attempting to draw leaves, but I'm doing some lines and I'm coloring them in and I'm looking, I'm like, those aren't leaves, those are eyes. It's a face. And I got this like reptilian face. And again, it's just a portion of a face. It's kind of like really close up. It's not a full, I never quite get a full image. It was just a face, but it's like, that's Laramie. Laramie must be reptilian, So there's these things that I sort of get intuitively. I don't necessarily always, like I said, I don't really always get a clear message. I'd like to be better at receiving whatever these messages are. But yeah, I would really like to be able to incorporate them into my writing, but it's really been just within the last, like I said, in the last 3 years since losing my dad that I really got into exploring this kind of work and exploring this kind of energy and doing these different creative things that I never used to draw. I never was someone who did art ever before. I just kind of had this idea one day. I don't know what made me think of it, but um I think it might have been rewatching some channeling work, and I was sitting there and I thought of when I was a kid and I used to steal my mom's Avon and Mary Kay samples, you know,
Yeah, I remember
back
the
in the
Avon and Mary Kay's. Yeah,
oh, yeah, and I used to, like, take the lipsticks and color with them, and I thought, "Oh, I should try to find, like, old lipsticks so I could color with them," and then a thought popped in my head, "Well, oil pastels are like lipsticks." I was like, "Oh, yeah, they are," and so
that's
that's how I
true.
got
Actually, yeah.
yeah, so that's kinda how I actually got into doing the oil pastels and working with that, and yeah, it's kind of I don't know if spiraled from there is necessarily the right way to say it, but, that's how I've gotten a lot of these sort of snippets and pieces of faces that I'm getting now and then, and I still get sort of again, messages or things that pop into my head that I know aren't me. I was cleaning my house one day. I was just I don't know, I'm not a housekeeper at all, and I just, like, went into a cleaning frenzy all of a sudden for no reason, and this word popped into my head, Achtung, and I took German in high school. I didn't quite remember. I was like, "I'm pretty sure that's a German word. I don't know what that word is." And so I Googled it, and it was attention. And I was like, "Okay, I'm supposed to be paying attention. Paying attention to what? What am I supposed to pay attention to?" So, I don't know. So that's kind of a weird sort of side tangential fluid thing that's been happening while I've been getting back into writing, and I don't know. I do get a sense that there are, I should say, energies that are trying to get messages to me, and I feel like it's got to be related to this writing that I feel like I have to do and that I'm really excited about doing. It's a mystery that I don't quite have solved yet.
Well, I love the fact that first of all, you're still excited at having. Some people get so frustrated. They're like, I'm getting this inner information, energy, this idea, this picture, this something, and I can't fully place it, and it bums them out, gets them upset, gets them frustrated, sometimes even infuriated. But you're taking that as a level of excitement, like, wow, now I can build on that. Now I have something else, another energy, waiting for another synchronicity or something that'll help tie it up, which in my perspective is always the best way to look at that, because then you're going to be able to build more energies and connections from that part too. But I also love the fact that out of what was a difficult thing for you, and a loss, and a feeling of depression and just wanting to get stoned and watch TV, came one of my favorite shows, Interview with Ed.
Oh
um,
yeah, love it. Love all the channelers out there, and really glad I found it and found your work. But again, I don't think there's any such thing as a coincidence. So I think as
oh
hard as
no.
yeah, as hard as it is to think about, there are times that I think to myself that there was a part of dad that left on purpose because he knew that he could help me better from the other side, and that maybe there were things that I wasn't doing that I was supposed to be doing, that something had to shove me into it.
1,000%. I definitely believe that the energy behind a person's death has just as much to do with the expansion, growth, and development of everyone they leave behind than it does with the sadnesses and the difficulties that can be left behind someone's passing too. At least when they pass with people who love them. Some people pass and there's nobody there really to miss them, or unfortunately, even some people who are so wounded or disconnected that people praise when they go, which is a whole other thing. But the people that we love definitely give us impacts well beyond the death, and a lot of that energy and co-creation. I think you're right. I think the part of development and growth that come with it. But I really love how you took this energy from that place of pain, and then found this energy, I found the information, and then just started diving in head first. You know how scary it is for most people, I think, when they're going through a trauma like that, to develop or hear this idea that maybe they've heard a few times before, maybe they've heard about it a lot, just never dug into it so deep, or never heard of it at all, and then just is like, wow, this is really, really great, and dive. That's hard when you're in a place that feels off centered and wounded, you know?
It's you know, it is it but it's interesting kind of the more that I sort of get into this little mystery that I'm trying to unfold, the more I start to think there's things that I look back on now as, in my childhood and things like that that make me think that there have been energies, entities, something trying to communicate with me for a very long time. So for me, I've always been a really very vivid dreamer. But for a lot of my life, and I can remember all the way back to when I was 4 years old, it was very vivid, awful nightmares. Like I can remember reoccurring nightmares. I actually have a short story that I want to try to incorporate into the podcast at some point, that I wrote about one of the earliest reoccurring nightmares I remember having when I was a kid. Um, but there's a lot of I have a number of reoccurring nightmares throughout my life that are very vivid that I remember really very clearly, that I look back now and I think I had a wrong perspective at the time that made me fearful, that made me experience them as nightmares, but I think that they were my extra dimensional friends, whoever they happened to be, trying to contact me even as far back as when I was a kid. I just didn't understand it. I didn't have the right perspective. I saw it as something fearful. And actually before we podcasted, I was kind of thinking about these things. And I remembered when I first moved into the house that I'm in, which was in 2019, end of 2019, before my dad passed away. I remember having a really very vivid I was terrified, but very vivid nightmare that I was being abducted by aliens. And I was so freaked out and so scared when I woke up. I was sleeping in the basement at the time, and my sister was living with me and she was upstairs. I had to go upstairs and just sleep on the couch just to be upstairs where my sister was. I was that scared. I was that upset. And, of course, looking back at it now, me and the perspective that I have now, I'm like, damn it, I wish I would have gone with them. I really wish I would come back and try again. Can we try this again? But yeah, I sort of get the sense that whatever whatever energies are trying to get these ideas or thoughts or whatever it is to me, and creating all these different synchronicities that I've been experiencing, especially since my dad passed. It's again, I haven't unraveled the mystery, but I really do feel like someone's been trying to talk to me for a really long time, and I'm trying to listen a little bit better. I'm not quite there yet, but it is interesting, to kind of look at these things that I've been experiencing with these different, being inspired to the things that I write about and being inspired in this art and seeing these synchronicities that I have and just thinking there has to be something that I came here to do. And there have to be people or entities or energies that agreed to help me with whatever it was. I don't quite have it figured out yet. I'm trying.
That's it. That's what we're supposed to do, is try, Some people get lucky. I consider myself extremely lucky, and the reason, not so much as a luck, but it's just happened that I was a highly obsessive and addicted personality. So that energy went from my last addiction of drugs to my new addiction of meditation. And when that happened, boom, now I'm able to meditate and I practice for hours now. So for me, it was like really a progression that was very quick. But for a lot of people who I hear who share their experience and stories, that's what it is. It's one day I understood this about whether
Yeah.
something new or something old. Then I learned this, and then I learned this, and about 20 thises later, all of a sudden,
Yep.
10 of those thises are now a big picture, or at least a part of a picture, and it's usually a lifetime of understanding and learning more and more and more and more. And for me, I'm excited to see you at this level because what you've created from your own excitement and your own understanding and how you've implemented that energy into your creative process with this show that you do, the podcast that you do. It's amazing. It's funny. It's witty. It's on the mark, and it really is fun.
Oh,
So I
thank
love how you
you.
do it. Yeah, absolutely. How I found out about it. You had wrote me and said, "Hey, this is who I am. I wanted to let you know that Trev had an appearance on my show." And I was like, what? I go and I listened to that episode, instantly fell in love. I wrote you back, I think the day after
Oh,
I read it was
yeah,
like,
and
yeah.
I was super amazed. I didn't. I was like, I'm just gonna send it because I just really hope it. Trev doesn't mind that I put him in the story because it just felt right to put him there. And I was amazed. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe he listened, and he liked it. And I was like, oh my god, he wants me to be on the show. Holy crap! I was super excited.
Well, it was amazing. I mean, Trev's the greatest waiter in the history of the galaxy anyway.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
so
And
to put him in
I
his
mean,
natural element.
who could possibly be better? He's just got a customer service to the T. Absolutely the most fun person you could have to be bringing you anything to drink or eat.
Get you. I mean, just imagining being in that place, it's hilarious. And Kalina, same thing. She's chiming in chat room that she really loved it. That
Thank
she loved
you.
it too. Yeah, so it was amazing, and we'll put the link of that episode in here too, guys, in the chat, so that you guys can check out Trev in the actual story itself, which is amazing. But you know, this started, you said, as a assignment, right? And then it turned into this creative outcropping and flow. Was the assignment just for
So
like
it was just a writing contest that I was trying to enter.
oh, just randomly
It was,
that you
yeah,
found?
because my friend had, gotten me thinking about writing, and I can't really remember how it was. I think it might have been just something that was like an ad on Instagram that
Oh,
popped up.
amazing.
Yeah. And I was like, "Oh, I could go try that." Vocal, I think it's called Vocal is the website I was on, and they have writing competitions during the summertime. And my dad passed away in July, so this was like I think August or something like that. And I yeah, that so actually a couple of the episodes that the episode that Trev is in, the kid with the chocolate, was another prompt where you had to write a short story. So I obviously edited from what I originally had created for um, the short story competition, but it was something about having a piece of chocolate cake in the story. So there's actually, I think, 3 episodes that were originally because I was following prompts for these writing contests. And later on when I was kind of formulating these other ideas about Abernathy Franklin and who she was and the kind of storylines she would have, I was like, well, I already have these short stories that are written. I may as well, work them in somehow. And so that's kind of what I did is I revised them and edited them to sort of fit the storyline and to fit being part of Abby's story.
Which was a great touch. And I really love the fact that uh, you're taking these things from this place and just allowing it to flow. See, to me, that takes a skill. And I know when you're writing, you have time to stop and change things and fix things, but it feels very much like what do they call those people who do theater and they take suggestions from the audience?
Improv.
Improv, yeah, like
I
an
have
improv
an
acting.
episode about improv. It's my 10th episode. So, interestingly enough,
Nice.
I This one I wrote again, thinking that I understand how I really appreciate being on your show because I like that there's an audience that's not going to automatically think I'm absolutely bonkers and want to call the men in white coats to take me away.
They'd be calling on themselves too. So
That's the nice thing is that's my tribe. That's my people. But so one of the ideas that I had that came to me, I was I really can't even remember how it started, but I was having conversations with John Belushi. I think it's because my dad. So again, one-sided conversations. I'm certainly not a channeler or psychic or anything like that. I would absolutely love to be, but I wouldn't claim to be. A lot of it is things that happen in my imagination to a certain degree, but who's to say that's not real? But so my dad,
exactly.
yeah, one of the big things that I shared with my dad, he loved SNL and he loved classic SNL, and he used to have like VHS tapes of the best of Gilda Radner, the best of John Belushi, the best of Dan Aykroyd, and the not ready for primetime players. It was a big thing that we just loved watching when I was a kid, and so for whatever reason, I started having these conversations with Dad and John Belushi in my head, and I was just again kind of chilling on the couch one night, and these ideas just started to come to me about Abby goes to an improv show, and it's John Belushi and Gilda Radner, and they are reincarnated as fourth dimensional beings, and they're doing improv. Um, it's kind of interesting. I did, all the things that kind of came to me when I was kind of all these ideas were flowing, and I'm scribbling them down in my notebook. I didn't necessarily incorporate all of them, partly because I wasn't sure that I could imitate John Belushi, performing the actual podcast the way that I record. But I had a whole rant that I got from John Belushi about a missing peanut, and it was very his classic sort of SNL style where he just works himself up into a frenzy and he's just getting himself so frustrated. And so, yeah, I ended up writing them into the 10th episode, where a couple versions of Abby go to an improv show, and that's who they see is versions of John Belushi and Gilda Radner.
That's just so amazing. I love every bit of that. And Spirit of Trees is saying, "Oh, I'm very much relating to you, speaking to you." Said that you're good because she's really enjoying that, and I know a
Hello,
lot.
thank you.
She's also subscribed to your channel too. So
Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Come and hang out, friends. I'd love to have more people come hang out.
Kalina, my lovely partner, wife, and channeler herself, asks, "Have you ever done stand-up comedy?" I get the feeling you would
Oh
be
my
awesome
god.
at that.
All right, here's oh lord. Synchronicities abound, let me tell you what. Okay, so I have considered doing stand-up comedy. I don't the performance elements of it, I haven't done any kind of public speaking since I was in high school, and I was captain of the cheerleading squad and, led pep rallies. So, it is something that I have considered. Um I have a little bit of sort of residual fear about it in terms of my ability to perform and my ability to remember my material. But I suppose, I could always fall back on a little bit of improv, I suppose.
Yeah,
And
you'd be built for that.
seeing as you asked the question, I feel like maybe that's a little bit of the universe nudging me in that direction to give it a go somehow. Because it is something that I have thought of, but I'm like, I don't know. Would I be good at that? I'm not sure.
Well, this to me, I mean, this would be something that I would have to ask you because I've been to the Dakotas, right?
Oh yeah.
My dearest friend who I grew up with since I was 4 years old, so 1984. 40 years at this point. I've known him, and he now lives in North Dakota, and he lives in McCluskey, this little tiny town right in the
Yep.
middle, about the size of your town. It sounds like a couple hundred people.
Yep.
Yeah, so I get the vibe of that down there. How would you go about doing stand up in South Dakota? You'd have to go to
Well,
Pierre
so
or
I actually live near Sioux Falls, South Dakota, which is the biggest city in South
Vegas.
Dakota.
Yeah,
And I have looked it up. There are 3 comedy clubs in South Dakota and Sioux
look
Falls
at
here. So I know
that!
I have looked it up previously.
Holy shit!
So
You said that's how far away from where you're at?
I live in basically a suburb of Sioux Falls is where I live. So I'm in Brandon. So it's you know, I'd be, I don't know, maybe a 20-minute drive. It's certainly
A
not like it would be
stone
hard to
skip.
get there. Yeah.
So you're not
So
living in the same town you grew up in then?
no, so I've lived a couple of different places. I went to college in Moorhead, Minnesota. I lived in Fargo, North Dakota for a while. I was in Wisconsin for a while, North Carolina for a while. Moved back home after I got divorced, actually. But yeah, I have looked it up. There are 3 comedy clubs in town. I don't know how I would go about getting myself any kind of open mic night, stage time, or what have you. I like the idea of it. It's certainly something that I have considered, that I think would be fun. Again, you've got those residual human fears of, do I really want to try it? Am I going to be any good? Are people going to throw tomatoes at my face, or whatever the current equivalent of that is?
Giving you a bad review on Yelp. No, that's 2000. So
Yeah.
giving you a Facebook Live with a thumbs down or I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It is something I have considered. I'm not gonna lie. I do have some notebooks where I've kind of jotted down some potential set material or what have you, but I
See,
don't know.
it's funny we all pick up on that stuff with each other. You know, you're new to this little group of people over here who come here every week, who hang out, and you just share some of your experience with them, and they're picking up on that stuff. And that's the beautiful thing. You are open enough to feel when someone's got something right, and that's the beautiful thing about working on your intuition and connecting with as much of that psychic energy as you can, because normally someone would say, oh, maybe you should try stand up, you're a pretty funny person, and I'd be like, no, just no, shut up. But
No,
this
it's
went way different. I'm enjoying that.
yeah, no, I do. I love it. Like I said, I'm sure your people are a lot more my people than who I grew up with, certainly. But again, there's no such thing as coincidence, and with my writing and the things that I do creatively, as frustrated as I get sometimes, feeling like I'm a little bit of a black sheep in terms of where I was born and grew up, and the people that I know. To some extent, sometimes I do think that I must have chosen this because I wanted to be somewhere where I knew that maybe there was some kind of stuck energy or resistant energy in the human consciousness that needed to be shaken up just a little bit. So,
Yeah,
and
absolutely. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh no, go ahead. I do love it though. I appreciate y'all and the supportive energy that you're sending me. I really do. Um, I don't know. I when you first asked me to come and be on the podcast, I was, besides being super excited and just feeling really super blessed, there was a certain part of me that was like, maybe there's something you're supposed to learn or figure out. There's another puzzle piece here. There's got to be something else here that's supposed to fit together with whatever else I'm trying to put together here.
There always is, and the thing that you said too about being stuck in this place, it's a very common theme with a lot of the people I've talked to who have gotten into channeling or the spiritual community or the psychic community. It's like the adversity of growing up against the not just the odds, but growing up against the whole system of the place that they lived was rough. A lot of
Right.
people were poor growing up into rich neighborhoods like myself. Some people um, were, going into like Kalina, where they had spiritual beliefs that were more Eastern philosophy and New Age philosophy versus fully Christian at the Bible Belt, North Dakota or North Carolina. So all these different things, it's the same theme. And I think that the reason people usually get into the spiritual community is because they're in these places where it's very black and white. This is the truth, the only truth. There's nothing else. Just believe me.
And you naturally feel very uncomfortable with it. And I do think
Yes.
that that's true, that you're sort of, I don't wanna say forced into it, but you're uncomfortable with it, you don't necessarily fit or belong entirely, and so you go searching out for, "Well, where do I fit and where do I belong, and what are the things that do resonate with me?" That because it's not here, and it's not these things, and it's not all these things that I'm being told, and the things that I'm, expected to believe or to do or to be and how I'm supposed to behave. this just doesn't fit, and you can just feel that it doesn't fit. So I do think that is true, and that is a big part of why I went searching out, for things that were paranormal, occult, witchcraft, whatever it was, because those were the things that were the no-nos. And well, I don't feel good about the things you tell me anyway, so I'm gonna go look at this no-no stuff that you're telling me I'm not supposed to look at.
Well, that's kind of the whole thing that I think happens. Everything you say feels bad, so what you say is bad must be good.
Yes,
That's
100%.
that's it. That's the motivation beneath. And when you said you're a child, who anyone who told you, hey, that's not good, then automatically you're like, hey, yeah,
I
no,
wanna
this is
check that out. What? Tell me more.
great.
Tell me more about this thing I'm not supposed to be knowing about. Excuse me?
That's it. That's so crazy. Eh, I love my parents very much, and my dad was really close to me. But he was one of the people who would say, "Oh no, that's just how it is. It's in the Bible, get it, get it." And I'm like, "No,
Right.
I don't get it, Dad. I don't get it.
I
I
don't.
want to
It does.
understand it, but I cannot wrap my friggin' brain around this." So that's why they call it faith, and I'm like, that's not enough for me.
No,
I
because
need to
it
have my
just I
own
don't.
experience.
Right, and I need to have something that resonates with me and that, feels like me, and this just doesn't feel like me. And, sometimes, again, I don't think there's any mistakes. I think we choose the family that we come into and the situation we come into. I kick myself every now and again being like, "What the hell was I thinking picking this situation? Why did I do this to myself? Make this so hard? Come on now." But, like, so for me personally, I do have, and I've really always had kind of a very contentious relationship with my mother, and she's the one who's really very religious and still tries to, kind of bring me back into the fold, as it were. And, I
Yeah.
really do think, though, I'm like, "Ah, God," as much as she frustrates me, I know I had to have chosen that so that it would push me into the things that were the things I wasn't supposed to be looking at according to her, because I know that I had to have chosen that so that I would be directed more powerfully, more forcefully to those other things, to the things that were outside of the norm and were outside of what was acceptable to her. And I think that to a certain degree it is still that way. Sometimes I feel a little bit like I'm just being a stubborn, angsty teen, but I'm like, no, I had to have picked that for a reason. I had to have picked that sort of catalyst, even though it's an uncomfortable catalyst. I had to have chosen it for a reason.
To be fair, almost all catalysts are uncomfortable at one level
Isn't
or
that
another,
true?
right? But no, you're right, because this is the energy that right now is opening up in front of you, and taking that energy to have you exploring all the things. And my mom's the same way. My mom is the very religious person. We get along well, because I get
Yeah.
along with most everybody, but she definitely reminds me every time we talk, hey, have you thought about reading the Bible? Or hey, have you went to church?
Yep.
And I'm like,
They like to send
no,
you little quotes about God and all these different things,
yeah.
and you can tell them until you're blue in the face. I just, you know what? I define God differently than what your Christian religion defines it as, but some people just don't want to accept that. They're not open to it, and that's fine. But again, to some degree, sometimes it does make me think, well, that's why you put yourself here, because, maybe there's just a little seed of something different that you were supposed to plant. And maybe I don't necessarily get to see how that grows, or what kind of fruit comes from it in this lifetime. But maybe I chose that. Maybe I chose to come in here and be in a place where the concept of new ideas, different ideas just needed to be planted.
That's it. And one thing too, a lot of people in our community, I hear, they get really upset at Christians for doing that. Like, hey, Jesus is the way. Come on, man. Why don't you do it? I've always taken it differently, because I was
Mhm.
a believer, and I really was into church, and like put a lot of my energy into it, until I got to those years where the questions became unanswered for so long I couldn't accept anymore. But I I always take it as a compliment if it's done the right way. If it's like, hey, have you done that? No, 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 really not. Oh, okay. Well, this is the best way for your soul. Not as a compliment necessarily, but I understand why they're doing it, because they love me
Right.
and they want my soul to be okay.
Right.
You know, they
They
don't want me
come
to
from a
burn in
place.
hell.
Right. They come from a place of love and concern, and I think that's part of it too is, it's there is a considerable amount, I think, of human consciousness that is encouched in fear. And when you're stuck in fear, you want to have something to cling to. And a lot of times, for a lot of people, that's religion and the idea of something that's bigger than you that isn't you. Right. That never resonated with me. It didn't work for me. What makes sense to me is that the greater power is me. It's me, it's you, it's everything, it's all of us. We are all part of the same big source energy, and you don't have to go looking externally for these comforts that you want. And I know that's a difficult thing, again, because there's a lot of fear that we still experience as humans in this wild ride that we've decided to incarnate into. But that's, with my writing, though, that's part of why I want my writing to be fun and sort of carefree. I don't want to include drama or trauma or high stakes. I really want these the concepts that, like what you channel and so many of these other different channelers bring, and these concepts that really resonate with me of we're all a part of all of it, and it's all, as much as there might be uncomfortable things, it's all good stuff. It's all for the expansion. It's all for our benefit. It's all for us to grow. And I want that to be fun. And I think to some degree it's, again, I chose the situation I was born into because I wanted that catalyst, but I also wanted to be able to learn. They come from a place of love with what they're saying, but it is also from a place of fear. And that fear is the
Yes.
thing that I'm trying to conquer in myself, and that I would really like to be able to provide something that helps other people to conquer it in a way that doesn't have to be painful, that doesn't have to be the uncomfortable catalyst, that can be something that's fun and easy and gentle and maybe a little silly and outrageous sometimes.
Well, that's a beautiful thing, because as much as I see how hard that transition is for most people, there is a way to do it in a fun and exciting way. And I believe you have a good formula for that too, with excitement, fun, but also information. Information that's
Right.
has depth to it, but still can be received in a way that's not, oh my, because
That's the big thing for me because, I know that. Yeah, even for people who are close to me who know that I'm just a little bit bonkers in this way, uh, the things that I try to show people, I know are not necessarily easily accepted. When you present them with even a show like what Ruben does, that where I found Ruben Langdon's the interviews with extra dimensionals, that I found you and like Roxanne Swainhart and Daryl Anka who channels Bashar, and all these really wonderful, loving beings that people channel that are really just trying to help humanity to live better lives and live lives that they prefer. And these ideas that just resonate so much with me, that like life is supposed to be fun, it's supposed to be joyful, you're supposed to be happy, it's not supposed to be a struggle, that's not what it's supposed to be like. And that is a really big part of what I want to convey, because I do know that in the current state that we live in human consciousness, I know it's difficult for a lot of people to accept the idea that the channelers like yourself and others are legitimate. People just say that's fake, they're charlatans, this and that. It's difficult to accept because it's outside of the norm, it's outside of what they're comfortable with, it's outside of what they're familiar with. But if you can again just plant that seed in a fun way, in an entertaining way, in a playful way, if you can bring these ideas into the human consciousness, I don't want to say in a sneaky way, but in a way that, like you said, can be more easily received, in a way that people might haven't, it's presented as fiction and entertainment. So it's easier for them to accept it. And it might not necessarily be, again, something that I see the fruits of in my own lifetime, but just the idea that I'm putting something out there that might help someone to maybe go down the rabbit hole and find some of these concepts and believe that they're true, and really kind of evolve themselves, enlighten themselves, better themselves, find a way to find something that is closer to the sort of love and fun and the natural state of being that I think we are meant to be in. That's the goal. That's what I would really love to be able to do with my writing.
Well, that's the beautiful part, and I do want to let you guys know, all of you from the Matrix Minds and all of you who enjoy going over to the Matrix Minds, there is an episode tonight at midnight, and I will share more about that after we get done talking to Haleigh tonight. But yes, tonight there is a Matrix Mind show, and I'll be announcing you that and telling you what it's about tonight here at midnight. So just hang out for another hour, and that show will be there on the same channel, The Matrix Minds. The link is in the bottom of the description under The Matrix Minds on Facebook. So what you said is beautiful. The energy of people receiving it, I think of that, and I think of someone hearing Treb, and Treb is pretty amazing that way. People are
Love
easily,
Treb.
yeah, they're like, oh man, it's like a gigantic puppy.
He is. He's
You
got
know,
some golden retriever puppy boy energy.
he definitely does, and that is pretty easy to receive. But Ardif scares the shit out of people, and
Yeah.
especially when people don't understand what channeling is. Artists like, hey, I'm here. This is the thing. Listen. Here's what you
Very
get.
straightforward, very
Yeah,
factual.
and very right in your face too. And a lot of time he tells people things that they don't necessarily want to hear. But people who love Ardif, they can handle him. But most people can't out the door without understanding what he's about, who he's about, or what channeling. People who don't know what channeling is, they're just like, wow, this guy just changed, accents 3 times in an hour, and he sounds like a freaking lunatic. But
No, and I think that again, there's even people who are open to these ideas of channeling, and there being these other entities and consciousnesses that are trying to contact humanity, that are trying to help us evolve in a positive way. We have such very narrow parameters for what is acceptable communication. And I think that's something that we, as humanity, we do struggle with. You look at racism, you look at classism, you look at, any of the various reasons we have to fight with each other that are really silly.
all of the isms, yeah.
Right. And these silly ideas that we have of, well, there has to be one right way and one group's right. And if we can get everybody to agree with that group, everything will be fine. And it's, I think that I don't exactly know yet how to work that into my writing, but that's kind of a big theme for me too. This idea that, the diversity of humankind is the beauty of humankind. Not every person is going to necessarily communicate with you in the way that you feel the most comfortable with. That doesn't mean that they're not coming from a place of love. That doesn't mean that they're trying to be harmful. It just means that you just aren't understanding them, or you're not quite understanding their energy. You're energetically different, and that doesn't make it doesn't make it a bad interaction. We have such an attachment to good and bad. If I
Oh
don't
yeah.
like it and if it doesn't feel good, it has to be bad. And it's like, no, it's just different, and you just don't quite have the perspective to understand it, or to see it from the other person's point of view. And so I understand that, people not being able, because I love Ardif. There's parts of my brain that are really interested in things like quantum physics and the sort of mechanics of the universe and the nature of existence. So listening to Ardif for me is quite nice, because there's factual things that my logic brain can attach itself to, and my logic brain likes that. But I do
Oh yeah.
understand, people are going to be drawn more to the happy puppy energy of Treb, and so that's, again, with my writing, the sort of happy playfulness I know is easier for people to swallow. It just is. And so if you can get some of these ideas and these concepts out into the world, into the public, in a way that is playful and fun, it'll be easier for people to maybe just start ruminating on some of the ideas or the concepts, and maybe the next time they run into, the Ardif versus the Treb, they won't be quite so judgmental.
That's the beauty thing, and that's kind of why I brought that part up about how hard he is for some people to receive, is how beautifully you integrate that energy about doing the integration part of it. Like, hey, let's make this fun for people, because I know when it comes down to it, Treb and Ardif both share extremely important things from my perspective that are amazing. And to be able to have one of those not deliver it in such a fun, exciting way versus the other who naturally does that. It's interesting for someone to be able to enter the topic in a way that's fun regardless, you know,
Right.
even if it would have been art, if you would have made it a fun way to do it, even if it would have been, you
Oh
know.
yeah, I can imagine Frankie, one of my versions. She's my favorite version of Abernathy, Frankie. She's the one that I think is the most highly evolved. I've laid some hints so far to that. But I do kind of love the idea of Frankie being able to sort of approach, and I have some ideas for future episodes where she's able to approach difficult situations where most humans and are triggered, knee-jerk reaction is to freak out and to be very upset. And Frankie approaches it with a very, well, why should you be upset? This is all just a game that we're all playing. We're all just incarnating for the fun and the expansion. And it's not as high stakes and as serious as everybody wants it to be all the time. You don't have to take it so seriously and get so upset about it. So I do love the idea of, like, Frankie meeting an artist and having a very nonchalant conversation from her side of it, even though he can be very sort of stiff with the way that he communicates.
See, that's the beautiful part. I love it. It's something, the energetic flow that I can go into. And I think you're right too about a lot of things you were saying about how the energy of diversity of Earth represents the beauty of it. I went through COVID, um, really not happy with what I was seeing with people. People were
Yeah.
so vile to each other. You know, if you're wearing a mask, you're a sellout. If you don't wear a mask, you're going to kill everyone around.
Yep.
If
Uh-huh.
you're taking shots, that you're helping everyone. If you're taking shots, you're going to kill everyone. All of this thing, it's not bad that people had their opinion. It's not bad because I had my own opinion, obviously, my own decision and opinion on all of those topics. But my opinion didn't make me hate another person for theirs.
Right.
And that's what was going on more than I had ever seen it. And I know the earth we're on likes drama, and I know drama sells, and I know
Yeah.
news agencies use that drama to enhance
Well,
their
that's a
clicks. And
little bit part of it, though. We are conditioned to enjoy drama to a certain
yes,
extent. There are a lot of institutions in place that make us think that drama is a part of how we feel alive. And that's another big part of why I really just don't want to include that in my writing, because, it's like you don't need to have that in order to enjoy your life. You don't have to always be fighting something. And I get that energy of being disappointed when seeing how very vehemently people argued with each other over mask, no mask, and it's like, come on, guys, we're facing something that humanity as a collective and a global scale has not faced since the Black Plague. Let's not all be so upset with each other over these things. And
I saw people wishing death. Like I saw people wishing death on each other, and that to me is the most horrid response to anything. I heard people literally say we should be rounding up everyone who's not vaccinated and put them in concentration camps because they're going to kill everyone. And then I
But
heard
again, that's coming from that place of
a
fear, and
fear, a
and
fear.
we're so stuck in that place of fear, and we're so encouraged to be fearful by, you look at anything in the 24-hour media, it's, they're
Yeah,
trying to just get you upset on purpose, which is
yeah.
why I
To
don't
get
watch the
your
news anymore.
Yeah, no, I definitely hadn't watched news for years, but when this COVID thing came around, my genuine concern popped up for everyone I loved, my son being one of them, and I was like, well, I got to kind of figure out what's going on, and immediately regretted it. And
It's
social media was the same way, just everybody shitting on each other the whole time, and I was like, my God, people I knew for years and loved started just really disappointing me. And I get it. We're all human, and I tried not to judge people for having those types of reactions. But when they were changing the fundamentals of who they were, it was really disappointing for me to see. But that also got me to think about all these things, about how important it is to talk with each other. So I started being a
yeah,
cheerleader for open communication. Like, hey, it doesn't
yeah.
matter if someone thinks 100% the opposite of you, instead of hating them, why don't we say, hey, why do you think that way? I want to understand. You know what I mean? That would be a way better
I
routine.
I do think there's also something to be said for being caught up in the energy of the collective. Everyone was panicking, everyone was upset, and so it's, if you're not someone who was maybe a bit more broad-minded, it's a lot easier to get caught up in that fear. And I'm not gonna say so, I'll be honest, my dad was a diehard Trump supporter. My dad did not believe that COVID was a real thing, and then he got it and he died from it, and if that's not the biggest joke life could play. But
I
it's
heard that a lot from people,
yeah.
nurses and stuff in Kalamazoo too, that people thought it didn't exist, and then they had died from it. And
But there was a part of me right after my dad died that really hated Donald Trump for that, and I kind of was pissed off and thought, if my dad didn't believe so much in you, he would have maybe been more careful or whatever. But from the perspective that I have now and the things that I've kind of been processing through in the last 3 years and this kind of, again, this puzzle journey that I've been through, everyone plays the role they're supposed to play.
yeah,
Everyone is taking on someone has to be the villain. You can't have a hero without a villain. So
yeah,
someone's got to play that role. We live in, that's part of this earth school that we're in, is this element of duality that we all have to live in, and somebody has to play that role and be that. And there's it's actually an episode that I want to write for Abernathy Franklin, where she goes to a rehab where she meets people who have been great villains in history, who are their souls are rehabbing from all the hate that they had to receive because they, so. But I do think it's true. There someone has to play that role in order for things to evolve and shift, and we might not necessarily know the why or what the purpose is or what the benefit is, but someone has to be that. And you can't be upset. It's again, we're all playing this game together. We're all in this grand human play together. And if we like drama so much, it's not going to unfold and it's not going to be a good story if you don't have different characters. So you got to have, somebody's got to play that and be that on the stage, but you don't have to. It's kind of the idea of like, you don't have to hate that actor who played that, whoever the villain was in the movie that was so bad. That's not who they were really. That
right.
it's a role that they're playing.
I found one thing very interesting about Donald Trump, the phenomenon, and not necessarily the person. I think I understand the person a lot better than most people uh, do. And not saying that I understand people, but I think I have a better objective, because a lot of what I saw people do with Donald Trump is either hate him endlessly with little to no reason,
Mm-mm.
or take things that they felt passionate about and go on him, or hate him for good reasons because the stupid shit he used to say was pretty intense. Or I saw people praise him for either no reason or for decent reasons, because he did some good things too with economy and with helping certain groups around.
Well,
So there
it's
was
that's
good and
kind
evil in both, right?
well, that's kind of the thing is, he was just a figurehead, and that's kind of how I look at any and all politicians, is like they're just a figurehead. They're just we project so much onto them
Yes.
because they're public figures and we have all these expectations of them. And I voted for you, so you're supposed to fix all the things that I don't like. And
Poster people, a poster
right.
child, right?
They are though. They're just the face of whatever the thing is that they choose to be the face of, and that it doesn't make them more powerful than you in your own reality and in your own world to be able to choose. It doesn't matter what other people are doing, whether it's a politician who makes the rules that you're supposedly supposed to live by or not. It matters what you choose for yourself. It matters that you choose to see the good in people. It matters that you choose to, if you can't see the good in something, to just learn to look away from it and not focus on it.
Yeah,
And
don't let it in your reality.
Right. Don't let it cloud the things that make you happy and joyful and make you a good person. And I think that's a bit where we get tripped up as humans. We have these expectations that it's kind of like cancel culture, right? You do one wrong thing and you're done forever, and it's just silly to me. It's we need more forgiveness in this human culture that we have. We need more room for people to make mistakes. We need more room for people to, cuz that's how you learn and grow, is to make mistakes, you know.
Absolutely. The hatred that happens between people now is definitely at levels that are really ridiculous, and cancel culture is part of that. And hatred of racism, something that's been around for so long, that's so ridiculous. And I
It
felt
is.
like the dinosaur of racism was going out the door, but it always gets plucked back up in one of two ways: either people engaging in it directly, or the media engaging in it, getting people riled up about it, either good or bad ways about it. Like,
But it
hey, we
it is
shouldn't be.
also it is also part of the belief structure thing. We have this while there's groups that are disenfranchised, and that wasn't about races necessarily. I remember someone in North Carolina when I was living there that I knew, who would talk about, she was a teacher. She would talk about college students that she had who were of the sort of like the old coal miners, basically, right? And that they would, even though they had never actually worked in the coal mines themselves, they were lamenting having to go to school because the coal mining jobs weren't there, even though they were jobs that were not well paying, not good for your health, not good for you to any level. But and I remember her saying they fetishize their own disenfranchisement. And
Ooh.
I think that's something that happens. We are addicted to drama. We are addicted to things. This is so terrible. I'm so justified in being so pissed off about this. I'm so,
That's
and
very true.
I think that's a part of it, and I think that's why the racism situations, or whatever, again, classism, whatever the ism is, I think that's why it's perpetuated, is because to a certain degree, there are parts of human consciousness that are just stuck in the idea that, but it's so much better for me to be right and to be on this side that's being oppressed and being damaged and being harmed, because that's how I find my justification and my validation as a person. And that's not to say that there aren't harmful, awful things that happen, but again, it's you got to look at the law of attraction, Abraham, right? The more you focus your energy on a thing that you don't like, the more you're going to see that thing that you don't like. You got to
Yeah,
look at the good things. You got to look at the opposite things. You got to, positive reinforcement. You got to reinforce the positive things that you see. And that's how you make the changes. You can't beat something to the ground to make it go away. It just goes underground and it'll come back up again.
I
So,
like that. That's actually very profound. It's very true. If you're pushing it down into the ground, it's just gonna pop up somewhere else, won't it?
yeah, it doesn't make it go away. It just means it's hiding until it has enough, energy to come back up again. So if you really want to make a positive change, if you really want to see those things go away, you have to really look at the positive things. I think it was Mother Teresa who said, if you're going to hold a protest rally, don't invite me, but if you're going to hold a rally for peace, invite me, because
Ooh.
that's yeah, be for the things that you want to see in the world. Don't be against things. That's not, you can't fix it by being against it. You have to be for the solution to make a positive change.
It's funny you say that, because I don't hear people say that enough. And Kalina always uh, communicates with me when we're watching something together. And you get these people who come on and they're like, here's the problem, here's the problem, here's the problem, here's
Right.
more problem. And she's like, okay, I'm glad we have a focus on what's going on that's wrong, but how do we fix it?
Right. You
Tell
can't.
us that.
And and that's the thing that I think is a kind of a problem that we have with this culture of constantly fighting with each other and being on opposite sides. There's so much noise going on. I'm right, you're wrong, I'm right. Everybody, if you would all just shut the F up for a hot second, maybe we'd be able to hear some of the voices out there that do have solutions, because there's brilliant people all over in the world. Somebody's got solutions to the problems that we have. If we would all just quiet down
Oh,
long
they're
enough.
out there. The
Yeah,
solutions are there for sure. You're right, too loud to hear it.
There's too much noise, and so that's kind of another thing that it's something that I struggle with personally, the noise in my head, it's only ever a fight with me. I'm never upset with anybody. It's always a fight with me. It's always me fighting with myself. But
Yeah.
if you could, I know that that's the same way in me, and I know that it's the microcosm mirroring the macrocosm. If you can just quiet your mind, if you can just quiet yourself long enough to hear the solution, it is there. You will get it. If we could all collectively just quiet ourselves, just calm ourselves long enough, the voices of solution, the voices that have the answers would be heard. They would be able to come through, and we could start focusing on, okay, hey, that's a good idea. Let's try that. Let's do that. And you could get that momentum going in that other direction. But we just get so caught up in being upset and having these arguments, and we're just, again, the law of attraction. You're just following the negative but it's a problem. It's a problem. It's there. It's there. Okay, fine. Yes, we get it. It's there. Okay, we'll leave it alone and let it be there and shush. And let's let a solution present itself.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I think if we all focus more on the things we could put our energy into fixing, I never heard that. I've heard a lot of quotes from Mother Teresa before, and I never heard that one. It's very profound. If you're gonna call me to do something about love, then call me. I'm there.
Right.
That's amazing, and very profound. Now, our time has actually flown by tonight in a very
Yeah.
quick way. We're actually already to the point where it's the lightning round time, and
Fun.
it'll be great. I think it'll be really fun. So, just a few benevolent questions. If you don't want to answer them, pass. If you don't
Well, as
want,
long as I know the answer, I'll give it to you.
all right, well, that's perfect then. Yeah, you're an open book, so this one will be fun for you, hopefully.
Love it.
Uh,
I'm ready.
what's your favorite color?
Oh, I'd have to say it's a tie between purple and blue. I've always loved
Mm,
purple, but blue is the sort of cardinal color for Sagittarius, and I do very much resonate with my zodiac sign, so I also love blue.
that my two favorite too. Purple first, blue second. So you're in
Yeah,
good company. Yeah,
love
purple.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. What is your favorite food?
Ooh, I love food. I love
Yeah,
all kinds of
food's
food.
good.
I love weird food. I love Thai food. I love Indian food. I love Ethiopian food. Anytime I can find anything that's like weird and different, I want to try it. I love different weird food. Things that are unusual to where I grew up. So, that contrarian rebel in me wants to try things that are different than what I've grown up with.
So you enjoy the Asian ethnic food
Oh
of
yeah.
the Asian region. Beautiful. Um, yeah, I've never had Ethiopian food, but
Oh,
I
it's
have.
so fun. You get to eat with your hands and that little bread you gotta grab all the food with. It's fantastic. That's a part of it too for me. I think if the food is fun to eat, like crab legs. I love crab legs. You gotta work so hard to get it, but that's part of the fun.
It is, and that's something Kalina has been telling me a lot about with the Ethiopian food that she had in LA, and I definitely have not tried it, but I've had Thai food, good authentic Thai food, and Indian food, and
Ooh, love it.
Japanese food. Yeah, so it's a good continent for food, for
Oh
sure.
yeah, I do love that we have a lot of different things. Again, see diversity, people. That's what makes the world go round. That's what makes it beautiful. You got all the different kinds of thing you can pick from the menu.
Yeah, that's it. If you take just Western Asia and Northern Europe or Northern Africa itself, that's a huge variety of everything. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
I will definitely have to revisit Ethiopian food now that I've heard it more than once.
Oh yeah. It's a good party time.
I want to try. What's your favorite band and or song?
Oh, I really, you know what? I am such a lover of music and I have such an eclectic taste. Because I love classic rock because my dad was into classic rock. We shared that a lot. The first concert I ever went to was a Kiss concert when I was 11 because my dad's awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I really love folksy music, though. I really love anything that's got, like, a really heavy bass, so, like, folksy music, I do there's some, like, 90s, probably alternative rock that I'm into. God, I probably really couldn't pick a favorite.
So the '90s bass rock alternative, you mean like Primus stuff?
God, I'd have to, like, get out my Spotify playlist. I'd be happy for everybody to follow me on Spotify because it's very eclectic. I've got some playlists that are full of Cardi B, and I've got some playlists that are full of Kiss and Aerosmith and Ozzy Osbourne, and I've got some playlists that are full of, like, Tom Waits and some of the ones that, I think it's Hozier is one that I really like. Yeah, I don't it's hard for me to pick. Again, Sagittarius. I don't like to sit in one space very long.
It just depends on where you're at, what you're feeling for that moment, huh?
Absolutely.
I love that. Well, what is your favorite type of animal on Earth or otherwise?
Oh, I love dogs. I actually have had such a weird roller coaster of a time lately. This last weekend, actually, one of my dogs went into liver failure. I had to put him to sleep.
Oh,
That
I'm
I had
so
for 10
sorry
years.
to hear that.
Thank you. He's a sweet little boy, but I love dogs. I love a lot of my dad again. Gotta talk about dad. Dad was into a lot of different animals. He had pet snakes and pet mice. I had pet mice for a while because he had mice, lizards. But I really do. I love my dogs. I think there's a lot of times I think, we as humans don't deserve like dogs and cats. They're just so loving and so loyal and so just they don't care what you've said wrong or done wrong. They forget it in an instant and they'll lick your face.
Yeah, dogs are literally the nicest beings on the planet for the most part. I mean, they really will love you unconditionally. Like the word
Yes.
unconditional love, that's a dog definitely does that better than any humans, you know. Even
Oh,
even with your
absolutely.
kids, you know, you could be like, "Oh God, my child just pissed me off so bad," but a dog will
Yeah.
never do that. You know, they might bark at you, or
And a
if
dog
you're
will never
pinching
tell you
them.
that they hate you when they're mad.
Yeah, I hate you. You know,
Yep.
never. You'll never hear that from a
They'll
dog.
never do that.
That's beautiful. I love dogs too. Yeah, it's unfortunate. The last one we had was a puppy, and he got hit in
Oh,
our
no.
apartment complex. So we're like, until we get our own house out on some land, we're not getting any more because it was
It's
just too
hard.
much of an event for us. Yeah, to
Yep.
repeat. So I appreciate you sharing that. And then let me see. What is your favorite place to visit to be in nature for both the feel and the beauty of it?
That's a tough one. I haven't been necessarily as many places as I'd like to visit and be in nature. I loved living in Wisconsin. I did love, the trees and fall. I have to say, there's a special place in my heart for where we used to go camping when I was a kid on the Missouri River in South Dakota near Mobridge. I think where I grew up kind of gets a lot of flack for being very flat. It's, the prairies. There's not a lot of hills, but I got to tell you what, there's something to be said for being able to see that sunrise and sunset coming over the land and being on the river. I love being on anywhere near water. I love the lakes. I love being near rivers. That's actually it's one of the last things my dad ever said to me in a conversation we were having on the phone. People who live near water are happier. And it's kind of one of those things that's now become a goal of mine to live somewhere next to a lake or somewhere next to a river because I really do love it, and there is something about being close to water that there's an energy there that I'm very attached to.
It is. It is a way better thing for water. We live in the Great Lakes region in Michigan, and we're surrounded by the big lakes. But even inland Michigan has as much or more lakes than Minnesota, which brags to be the land of
Oh yeah.
10,000 lakes. Yeah, so
Mhm.
we literally in a 10-mile radius have 3 or 4 lakes just right around here, and then we have a river
Love it.
that goes right through our apartment complex. We just moved right next to the river, fortunately too.
Oh,
Yeah, which has been
beautiful.
nice. Yeah. Um, What in Wisconsin? You said you lived in Wisconsin. Did you ever go through the Dells?
Yes. I went to the water parks in the Dells with my younger siblings, actually. That was one of the things I did while I lived there is I picked them up and had them stay with me. We went to the Dells. I love, Wisconsin is a beautiful state. I really loved the La Crosse area right there on the Mississippi River is really super gorgeous, especially in the fall. I would let you know, I would love to have a house there or a vacation home there. Universe, figure out a way for me to be able to have a vacation home.
Yeah, universe, line her up.
Yeah, make it happen.
You know, it's funny. One of my favorite comments off most of the shows that we've done so far. I had my guest 2 weeks ago was my good friend who lives in North Dakota. His wife, Sierra Rose, and I were talking,
Mhm.
and the lady in the comments section said, I got a lot from tonight's show, even though it's not what I thought I was going to get from it. And she said, describing this area with flat land and hardly any trees. And I was like, ooh, I could never live in a place like that. And then all of a sudden she heard us describing the summer when they plow the fields and the flax
Oh,
seeds
yeah.
coming with different colors on both sides and all the um,
Let me tell you what, in the Dakotas, it is flat, but when you can watch a storm build from 40, 50 miles off in the sky and see it roll in, there is something really majestic and amazing about that.
Oh, it's beautiful, and the thing that I love the most about it was something I described in great detail too. Was as much as I know the sky for that time of year and that portion of the world, when I go and look up, when I was driving on my way to his house, hours outside of Bismarck, there was just nothing. So I look up and there
Mhm.
was tens of thousands, 100,000 stars I'd never seen before with my bare eye, and
Oh,
there it was,
absolutely.
just the most beautiful.
You don't have the light pollution here because it is more rural and, even where I am near Sioux Falls, it's a big city. I can still look out my bedroom window and see the stars, and there's something to be said for that too, being able to look up and see what's out there,
It
and be
is
able to
beautiful.
say, "Hey, friends, what's up? I know you're out there. Come see me."
Me and Colleen actually saw a few ships while we were out there at my friend's house for a few
So
days.
jealous.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And on demand too. Kalina was actually meditating, calling on one of her guides to
Oh,
come.
amazing.
Oh, it was
I love
amazing.
it.
Yeah. Last question, and I know we're going to be a little over on time, which is fine. But the last question I'll have for you is, what is your favorite childhood memory?
Ooh, that's a wow. Gosh. I the one that pops into my head right away because it was something that I was reminded of before the show. Hi, Michael. I know you're listening, by the way. Um, when I was maybe I don't know, I might have been 11. My parents had gotten divorced. My dad was living in a different house, and we were just hanging out. I don't know what we were doing. We ran out of sodas or something like that, and somebody needed to go down into the basement and get another case of sodas, and my brother wouldn't go down. My older brother wouldn't go down. He was too scared to go down to the basement by himself. And my dad said, "Well, Haley will go down by herself. She's not scared." Oh shit! Now I got to go downstairs by myself in the basement because Dad thinks I'm brave. But that is something that, in a lot of situations, and in particular since Dad's passed, that I think about sometimes. That well, Dad thought I was brave. Dad thought I could do it. Dad said Haley's not scared. She'll do it. And it's kind of something that I hang on to a little bit when I don't think I can do something or when I'm a little afraid to try something. I think, well, Dad would have said, "Haley's not scared, she'll do it." Well, damn it, I better do it.
Oh, that's amazing. That's very sweet too. And having memories of that with our parents after they're gone is a really priceless thing. It's, my dad, it's been, Jesus, it's almost been 8 years since he passed. And every once in a while, I'm still thinking about those little things, and it brings tear to my eyes every time because
Yep.
just a beautiful thing. So thank you for sharing that. And I know that's, uh, the most personal question we have, and it has done done a little number on a few people. One was crying here, and that's why I always tell people, if you want to skip them, because I don't want people feeling uncomfortable with sharing. But you've been
Oh no,
amazing with sharing.
I'm happy to share. I know I talk about my dad a lot, but he really was an awesome guy, and I really do. I think that there's sometimes that I think dad just came into this world to be my dad because he had to encourage me, and as hard as it was again for him to have left, I think there was a part of him that did it for a reason. And I think it was a bit of a kick in the pants for me that I needed. So
Yeah, and by the way that you shared everything, he loved you so dearly and wanted the best for you. So I definitely can see. I think that's why my dad passed on. He was more worried about the burden he would put on us than he was his own life, and that's why he kind
yep.
of gave up in the process of him starting to actually get better. So yeah, it's definitely a powerful thing our parents love, and it's a beautiful thing. Before we get to the part where I want you to share with people how to find you, how to get a hold of you, how to find your podcasts and your channels and all of that stuff, and we do have links in a description to support the things that you want to show people or talk about. I just want to say thank you for coming on. It was short notice.
Thank
It
you for
was.
having me. I'm really so thrilled to be here. So happy you invited me. Honestly, I just feel so blessed that you wanted to have me on. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, and thank you for putting the energy towards doing something noble for the collective. I know, probably a good chunk of it is your own passion, and you wanting to share that as a passion, but also the desire to share that for others, to be able to take that in a way that it's not really given a lot out to the publicly too, in a way that's fun and exciting and mainstreamily easily digested. Those are things that not a ton of people have been able to do successfully. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for being you, and thank you for coming
Well,
on this
thank
week.
you. I appreciate you so much, friend. Thank you.
No worries. And before, actually, there's two things before we get to the thing. I want to announce to you guys tonight who have asked about what we're doing over at the Matrix Media. Matthew will be there tonight at midnight doing a show. I'm going to join the chat and say hi to all of you guys. And thank you, Matthew, for letting us put this show onto your network and your group of friends who are amazing, and letting us simulcast here. Matthew's family is a great guy. I love him so much, and I appreciate everything, brother. So over at the Matrix Mind Media, we have Bidenomics as the Matrix fails. This will be a hoot, I'm sure, guys. We got a lot of things going on here. As you guys can see the poster, this is for tonight's show, midnight. The link for this is at the bottom of the description. If you go all the way down in the description, guys, you will find the Matrix Minds, and right next to that, it's a Facebook link to the Matrix Minds. That's where this is going to be tonight, guys. So pop on over if you want to. Say hey to Matthew. I'll join the chat for a little bit. We've had a big day, so I'll probably call night early tonight. But I'll pop in at least to say hi and see everybody over there. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, everybody. And check out the Matrix Minds over on Facebook, guys. So please do us the favor, sharing with us where to find you, what you're working on, what's exciting you, anything that you want to share with us about you and your work. Please,
Well,
share
you
away.
can. My Patreon is patreon.com/Abernathy Franklin. I do have my stuff posted over there, and you can join my Patreon for any extras. I have my YouTube channel that's going to be. I know you're going to have it linked. But basically, if you go on all the things and you just look up the Adventures of Abernathy Franklin, you'll find my stuff. I'm on Spotify. I'm on Apple Podcasts and Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. I'm H.Overseth on Instagram. You can follow me. I'm on Twitter, Overseth at Overseth Haleigh. Find me on Facebook. I don't care. Come pop into my Facebook and say hi and follow me. I'm down. I'm happy to have new friends.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you too for all of that. And you're absolutely correct. All the links are in the description. Anywhere you heard this tonight, anywhere you saw it live, anywhere you're listening to the playback, it will be in the
Oh, and
description.
Sorry, my where'sbyfrankie.com. That's where I have Frankie, I like to think of as inspiring me to do some fun and silly designs, so I've got some of that done, a little shop. So get yourself a coffee mug or a t-shirt or a notebook for funsies.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. If that's not in the description, we'll add that too. If you send me that afterwards, I think it might be, but
I
I
think
should.
I think I did send it, yeah.
Okay, good, because I closed my link earlier that had all the links open. And also, guys, if you're on our Facebook page for the ET Whisper, Kalina has been going through with every single link in the chat and dropping it as we've talked about these things. So it'll be wonderful, guys. Comment section. Actually, sorry, I'm reading out loud. Okay, thank you for that, Adam Twister. I'll check it out. If you want to send a donation to the show and the one on the website isn't working for the Adam Twister, you can always do that at paypal.me/e.t.whisperer, or just send it through to the email trebchanneling@gmail.com, TREB channeling at gmail.com, and you can do the donation there. All of our donations do go to Matt from the Matrix Minds because we are 100% funder, listener funded, and we also are integrated into all the places that we are that aren't YouTube and Facebook, from Matthew at the Matrix Minds and all the places that he posts both shows to afterwards. We also have the Forbidden Knowledge News Network posts these shows afterwards, and also we have Conscious Awakening Network posting our shows on their site after that too. So thank you to all the places who help support this show. Thank you to all the listeners who support the show. We appreciate it more than you guys know. We will be here next week, and I'm not 100% sure who I have coming next week. I still am waiting for that. This week's been a long, intense one, and it ends tomorrow with the most intense day of them all, which will be great. But by next week, hopefully things will slow down, and hopefully I'll have some more information to you guys about what's going on with the next few guests. But if you want to know who the guest is, just hang out, subscribe to our ET Whisper YouTube channel, go join the Matrix Minds, go join the Enlightenment Evolution Network or the Enlightenment Evolution Hour over to our Facebook pages, and we are going to be making a website both for the Enlightenment Evolution Network and all the sub shows that are there, including this one, including the Mothership, including Out There Talk with Valiant himself, including the Earth Experience with Lena Angel, including all the new shows that are coming. So we love you guys. Thank you so much, Jessica, for the donation. We appreciate it more than you guys know. Thank you, the Adam Twister, as always, for your donation. We appreciate it, guys. We are going to jump off. Thank you so much, Haleigh, for coming tonight. It was a really, really fun time, a really great pleasure, and thank you for being
Thank you
with
again
us.
for having me, and thanks everybody who joined in. I appreciate y'all.
Oh man, we love it and we appreciate you. Go visit her site, guys. She's amazing, lovely person. And if you haven't checked out her podcast, the Adventures of oh my
The
God.
Adventures of Abernathy Franklin. Don't worry,
Thank you.
I know
I
you've
almost
had a
said
long day.
Franklin. I almost said Franklin Abernathy, and I knew that wasn't right. That's what I
Oh,
was like.
don't worry, we've all got a little bit of dyslexia sometimes. It's okay.
Oh man, I'm telling you, today has been one of the most unfun days for putting words together, but I'm glad we did it for this occasion because it's a noble and worthy occasion to put words together.
Yeah, don't worry. There's a reason I don't usually do things live. I like to be able to edit and fix it, so don't worry about it.
I appreciate you coming tonight. Thank you for all you do and everything else. I love you guys so much. Thank you for being a part of the show. We'll see you guys next week here, the Enlightenment Evolution Hour at 10 p.m. Eastern on both the Matrix Mind Media, and the Enlightenment Evolution Hour and ET Whisper. We love you guys so much. Thank you for coming. We'll see you guys on the other side. Good night.